Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
Illinois-raised Elizabeth Boehm got her first job in Yellowstone National Park in 1983 and purchased her first camera 1 year later. She's been capturing nature's beauty ever since, with a recent emphasis on Wyoming birds. Pinedale-based and award-winning photographer Elizabeth Boehm and the stories behind her fantastic photos, next on Wyoming Chronicle.
Funding for this program was provided by the members of the Wyoming PBS Foundation. Thank you for your support.
I'm Craig Blumenshine from Wyoming PBS, and welcome to Wyoming Chronicle. It's our pleasure to be joined by Elizabeth Boehm. Elizabeth, welcome.
Thank you.
We said just a little bit in the top that you're a Pinedale-based photographer, and we'll have a chance to go look at many of your beautiful images here a little bit later in the show. But I wanted to use this opportunity to just meet you personally and understand how you became involved in photography, and really, even before that, you were born and raised in Illinois.
Right. Well, I grew up in a large family, and we were country kids, and so played in the woods and had fished at the river, so I'd always wanted to kind of come out west, and we never got the chance to really do it as tourists. So we looked at picture books, and growing up, I just always thought, I'm going to go out there one day. And so finally I got the opportunity to various things. I was going to school for a couple years and took a year off. Ended up in Evanston, Wyoming, working in the oil and gas, helping with a gas plant. I was just a laborer. But went back to school for another semester and said, no, I have to go back out there, and ended up finding a job through my cousin who had worked in Yellowstone Park before. And so I came out in May in '83 and started working in Yellowstone.
What did you do in Yellowstone when you were there?
I was just a bus person, waited tables, but I did it for 5 or 6 good summers, and I didn't want to go home, so I ended up at a ski resort being a ski bum for a number of years down in Utah, and it was lots of fun. I never really had to make a lot of money because I just had to get from one job to the next job, and in the meantime I picked up SLR and shot film.
Way back in the days of film.
Yes.
Holy cow.
Film.
How different have things changed? What was that like, shooting film and learning? That's where you learned then.
Right. Well, with film you had to pay for every shot basically, so you didn't shoot 16 per second images. So you were a little more cautious. You had to pay attention to what was going on. You wanted to get action shots. I did more landscape, wildflower stuff, so I set up and was pretty particular about what I was doing. I'd grab into wildlife when I could, but I didn't have quite the right lens and equipment to do it well. So I just worked with landscapes, got real proficient at close-up macro work at the time. And when digital started, it took a few years to really get confidence in it, but once I got my digital camera, it was amazing.
You told me off camera you had a chance to do a lot of workshops and a lot of study as you were learning. Did you have mentors, or how did you really learn to refine your craft? Because Elizabeth, your work is just absolutely stunning. It really is.
Well, thanks. When I first started, I picked up a book called The Nature Photographer's Guide to Photography, and it was written by John Shaw. And I just saw the book and I looked at the images and I'm like, these are the images I want to make. So I learned through the books, and then I eventually, several years later, it was the year of the fires and I was working in the park, and that fall I signed up to do one of his workshops in Michigan. So I went and traveled back there and saw what he was doing. And
were you doing this as a hobby?
Yes.
Just kind of wanting to learn more about photography?
Just a hobby, just learning, just wanting to make good pictures. I was out here traveling and I wanted to show other folks what was going on, my family and friends, and I wanted to show a good image, not just a little tiny elk in the middle of a field where you had to really look hard for it.
And this was long before everybody had one of these in their hands.
Exactly, exactly.
I was thinking that having grown up, so to speak, with film, you really had to really concentrate on what you were seeing because you just couldn't click, 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 click.
Right.
Did that make you a better photographer?
I believe it did. You had to pay attention to what was going on. One of the first things I learned was how to use light and use it properly. You're looking at the clouds. I check my iPhone now every day to see what's going on. When am I going to be out? Is it going to be thundering? Is it going to be stormy? Is the light going to be great? So light played a big part of it, and then I also pay attention hard to what's in my background. So I'm moving around with my birds and wildlife now. You move around to make sure you don't have twigs sticking out of heads and getting mixed up with elk antlers, things like that. So clean backgrounds are key. And these are things that I learned when I was shooting film. You just took your time and you set up nicely on everything.
Give me a walkthrough of what a typical day is for you when you go out and shoot. We're in the Pinedale area right now. I assume it's before dawn, having really planned locations, maybe even locations you visited before. I'm sure you're up pretty early oftentimes.
Right. I try to get up, I'm usually up a couple hours before sunrise, and I know what time that sunrise is. It's obviously changing day by day, but so recently I purchased a float tube with actually a nice platform and a blind over it. So now I can get into the water and move around and photograph ducks and other waterfowl. So I've been working with that this summer. So my typical day with that is set up the night before. I have the blind almost set up in my car. Get up in the morning. I grab maybe a piece of toast, brush my teeth, and have everything lined up, get in the car. Takes me about 15 minutes to get to my site, and then I pull everything out, I set up the blind, finish it up, and then I put this over my head. I don't want the birds to see me, so they just see this big blind blob walking around, and I sneak around to where I can get in and the sun's behind me, and then I sit and wait for sunrise to happen, and then kind of work the birds. They're still a little leery of me, but there's a pair of trumpeter swans on this particular pond, and they've decided to come in way close and check me out. So next year the goal is to get in. They've been nesting there, and I'm hoping they have little ones and I can get in close to them and get nice shots of the young ones. But it's been really fun because you can scoot in. There's shorebirds that migrate through in August, and I've gotten some really fun shots.
Do you spend most of your time in western Wyoming, either between Pinedale and Yellowstone? Is that the area you like to shoot the most?
Yeah, most of it's right here around Sublette County.
Even in local parks, right?
Yes, local parks. The town parks sometimes have some great stuff. We have moose all over the place, and I still don't really have great moose photos that I think, but they are my nemesis mammal, actually. They end up in places where I'm not expecting them, and I've had to pop out of blinds before because they've come in too close, and I just wanted them to know I was actually there.
Okay, Elizabeth, you can only shoot one animal or one bird for the next 6 months. You only can shoot one. What would you choose?
Well, for the next 6 months, it'd be great because it's the winter. A good great gray owl would be awesome. They're beautiful, they're fun, they're charismatic. You look at them and you're just in awe of them. And they're usually fairly comfortable around human beings. And to catch them hunting and flying would be great.
To me, it would be very difficult. And I've tried in my very amateurish way to catch moving birds and flying birds. That's hard. And your work makes it look easy. Is it easy?
No, it's not. You've got to be fast. Usually when I'm out, I can't shoot at the high speeds I like because of the light. And if it's sunny and too bright, that doesn't work necessarily either. But you got to stay on them. You're just clicking. You take a lot of images of that bird flying. You take it as many times as you can. Sometimes you only get one shot and you blow it. But yeah, you're usually shooting at fast shutter speeds, and you got to be able to pan with them as they're moving.
You're also a physical therapy assistant.
Right.
Does that get in the way of your photography?
Some days.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Work gets in the way of this stuff every now and then, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. For the most part, I just block it out. But it's those great mornings that we get fall when you get a fresh snowfall and things are happening, or in the spring when it's nice and you know where everything is, and I've got owls scout it out, and you get that nice snowfall, and the light's great, and you just, oh my gosh. I had an episode where we had a bobcat in town, right on the edge of the town park. He was on a carcass, and I wanted to be there every day, and I couldn't. I had to work and go. And some of the days that I was working, the light was just incredible. And my husband actually went out and shot it for a while, and I was just like dying because I couldn't get out there. But yeah, work can get in the way, but
you
okay.
also frame and mat your work, and I've often thought that is every bit as artistic as the photograph itself. Do you feel that way?
I feel, yes, that it's part of it, and I like good clean mats, and I like to put the mat and the frame to the image if I can. So I play around with it for a little while, and then I eventually, after 4 or 5 images, I may figure out what I really like the best.
Do you feel that your work in photography is at a static level? Do you want to do even more? Has it kind of mushroomed a little bit lately? You've won some pretty prestigious awards.
Yes, I don't feel like it's static. I'm trying to keep up with what's going on right now. I need to do some power editing this winter to see what I've actually got on my computer. But no, it just keeps growing. There's something always new that I keep wanting to try, or a new bird I want to go photograph. Yeah.
Tell me about the equipment you like to use. I mean, I imagine you have some good lenses now, some great, probably long lenses. What do you shoot with?
I shoot with a Canon 1DX, which is Canon's top-of-the-line DSLR at this point. And then I have a Canon 500 millimeter that I use a 1.4.
So a 1.4 is an extender. It makes it longer.
Right.
Okay.
It gives me just a little more reach. Some of these birds are real small, so you gotta be reasonably close and to get them a good size in your image. So those are that camera, that lens are my workhorse. I use those all the time. And a good tripod, always on a tripod.
We can hear birds now.
Yes.
Do you know what they all are?
We're hearing a Townsend solitaire calling in the background, definitely. And he's doing the single note, and sometimes you might get a little song out of him. They come into this area quite frequently this time of year. There's lots of juniper berries that they like to eat. So, yeah.
You were telling me off camera that really fall is a great time to shoot.
Yes, fall is a good time. It's great for a lot of mammals. They're looking pretty good. Birds are migrating right now, and so you never know what you're going to get through. I was just up in Yellowstone Park, and I had a ball. I was in one of the picnic areas, and there happened to be 2 blue jays flying around. You don't see blue jays in Yellowstone National Park every day. They're rather unusual and uncommon. So that was fun.
When I think of Yellowstone, I think of bears and moose and buffalo.
Right.
Blue jays doesn't come to mind.
Right, blue jays don't.
But I'm sure a lot of things that you see are things that we don't take time to see.
Right. With birds, they're everywhere, and most people don't see them. And like you say, everybody goes up there to photograph the bears and the elk. And I was hoping to, but I don't always do well in those crowds, so I always go find my own little spot. And I ended up getting the blue jays in the campground, and then there were 3 Canada geese that were working at Hardy Rapids, and they were getting down in underneath the rapids and feeding, which was something that I don't typically see. So I was photographing quite a bit of that.
So what advice do you give to beginning photographers? What do you tell them to do?
I would say learn your subject, learn your camera. Carry that camera manual with you, and whenever you have a question, you don't know something, look it up and get it in your head. Make that camera become part of you, so that when you get into a situation that you need to work fast, you can work fast. But knowing your subject. If you're going to do birds, learn your subject.
Elizabeth, people can see your work at Art of the Winds in Pinedale. It's right on Main Street. We've teased our viewers with some of your great pictures. Let's go see the good stuff.
Sounds good. We are here at Art of the Winds, and my artwork is on display at this shop in downtown Pinedale. And I was just going to go down the line here and show you what I have in the shop at the moment. We start here, Babes in the Woods. This is 2 great horned owls that I keep an eye on every year. Their first tree had fallen over, and so they have moved to this cottonwood snag. And I sat and waited for hours, actually, to get 2 of them to sit up on top. There's actually a 3rd owlet in the cavity. And this coincides. I keep an eye on certain places and trees because every year something's in it. And another year I had raccoons, and I happened to be walking by, and there were 5 little baby raccoons climbing all over this cavity, and Mom was underneath, and at times she would come out and peek out and look as though if they would just take a nap, I would be much happier. But I finally got these guys. Once again, I sat on it for quite some time before a couple of them just stopped and looked out at this little crack, which I was set up on. A few others, this red-winged blackbird, this one actually won the Wyoming Wildlife Magazine photo contest several years ago. I was sitting in a blind on the side of a pond that I'd been working for a number of weeks, and this blackbird came in, stopped on this island, and posed, but his problem was he was facing the other direction. So I'm sitting on him, and my arms are getting tired. And finally, he turned around to the other side of the island, and now I'm like, just belt out a good one for me. And sure enough, he did. So it just so happened I caught the whole image with a beautiful reflection. It was beautiful, dead calm that day. But that was one of my favorites because I walked away with a big endorphin rush knowing that I'd gotten the image. So it was great. I have this bluebird in the snow, which I call Snowstorm Blues. It was taken right around early October. We had a freak snowstorm that dropped 4 or 5 inches of snow, and I had about 2 to 3 dozen bluebirds that had settled in for the night. They were migrating, and they just had to kind of wait for the weather to cool, chill out, and let them move on. So it just so happened I caught them. They were all pretty much puffed up and trying to stay warm that morning. It was beautiful. The red of the willows came out nice. Blue and red are complements, so it really works well with the image. They're kind of my favorite days to be out are when we have those freak early snowstorms, either in the fall or the late ones in the spring when things are happening. So several years ago, we had this influx of great gray owls around the community. It was midwinter. We had a lot of snow on the ground, which brought them out of the forest out into the open areas. I had a number of them scattered around the county that I knew about, so I'd go check on them when I had time and the weather was pleasant for me. But anyways, this one I really enjoy and like because I really like how quiet and calm he sat on this fence post. They're pretty mellow birds if you're in close to them. But the white background is all just snow and gray day, which kind of really makes the bird stand out. I didn't mind the fence posts because that's what we have here in Wyoming. Lots of fence posts. And they were hunting. It was really a fun winter. You never knew where they were really going to show up. And then moving down, we have trumpeter swans, are a pretty common bird around here. Catching them with their little ones. This one was actually taken over in Montana on a wildlife refuge. I was actually surprised how calm she was when I was working them. They came in fairly close. I think she had 6 or 7 little ones with her. And the green of the water is just the trees reflected, which really made them stand out more. This burrowing owl, I love burrowing owls, and I set up on him. I actually had a burrow which had 9 little ones. You could sit in your car just off of the road and keep an eye on them. And the burrow was outside my window about 30 feet. And the parent birds would come in. Male would typically go catch a vole or a mouse, come in, trade it off with the female, and then she would come in and deliver it to the young. At this point, the male decided to come in on his own. And with this image also, I like the blue in the background, which is wild blue flax. And I had to do this in the morning because if you know anything about wildflowers, blue flax will lose their flowers by mid-afternoon, so the blue is gone. So I got nice backlight on the bird. He's flying in. I'm shooting fairly fast and just caught him as he came in and delivered the mouse to his little ones. And moving down more, we have a couple bighorn sheep. These were taken up on the backside of the elk refuge in Jackson where they come down. I usually don't hit it right. I'm still waiting to get it when I can bang heads with these guys, but I haven't quite caught that. In this situation, they were just kind of posturing to each other, and I'm always just looking for a good moment some kind of interaction between the animals. And I just so happened to catch it where they were messing with each other's heads, and the position was great. And I don't always necessarily need to get the whole animal in, and so I like this. It was just a portrait of both of them. I got the eyes. I had a number of images that had no eye contact or anything, so those are throwaways. But this one, I got both eyes and nice curls on the bighorn, so lots of fun with those guys. This image of the mallard, I call him the underappreciated mallard. As birders, we all look at mallards and go, oh, it's just another mallard. But this image brought out the full colors. This was in February. There was good overcast light on them, and the sun was setting in, so it really makes the colors on the bird pop. And I brought it up because I really like the punch in the colors. Mallards are pretty fun birds. The light made this, everybody looks at me and says it's a painting, and I'm like, no, it's actually a photograph, and it's just the way I have worked with the light that brought it out like that. Moving on, I have this image of these young burrowing owls, and this is actually the burrowing owl nest that the male burrowing owl was delivering to. There's actually 5 owls in there, but at this point I just liked how they little ones moved up to each other and kind of just stood chest to chest as if they were looking for comfort. And you can have 9 of them, but usually most of the images with all 9 were really messy. So you want to kind of isolate a couple of the birds to get a fairly decent image. And then coming down, we have another trumpeter swan. These guys are on Flat Creek in Jackson all the time, and sometimes I just grab my lunch when I'm up there. Go out there and watch these birds, and they can sit on the ice forever and sleep, or they can stand up and you just get ready and you get their wing flaps. And so he got a nice stretch on that one's wings with the blue background of the snow, and it was obviously a sunny day. You got some good blue. Coming across, we have a bald eagle, and this is taken out. I call it my bald eagle tree. It's out by Soda Lake, and sadly it fell over this year, so I don't have it anymore. But there's always eagles on it in August, September. They would check out the lake. There's lots of fish in the lake, and they'd sit there, and if you could sneak up quietly in your vehicle, you could shoot from your vehicle and get these guys. I've got them in a number of different poses, different light. They're just beautiful birds. And I kept trying to catch them taking off, but I'd miss it every time. So it was still one of my goals, but now my tree's gone, so I work on something else. And then below this I call it Life on the Edge. It's a red squirrel and a great horned owl. I was actually walking my dog through our town park and noticed the owl. And he was just sitting there, so I thought, oh, I'll go take my dog home and come back with my camera. So I came back with my camera, and I'm photographing the owl, and suddenly I see this little red nose coming up the branch. I'd heard the squirrel, he was scolding, but I had no idea he was that close. And he actually gave me 5 tries by running up that limb at that owl, and I could get into a situation where I was parallel to the 2 so that I could actually get sharpness in the squirrel's eye and the owl. So it was really fun. The squirrel survived. He knew what he was doing. I believe it was a young of the year owl, so nobody was hurt in the whole image. But it was fun. And then I have a bison. I call it Road Warrior. The bison, this was in Yellowstone National Park, midwinter. They tend to work the roads. It's easier for them than trudging through deep snow. And so I was in a snowcat with a few friends, and we stayed ahead of the bison. He just kept walking down the road. We'd jump out, set up, and as he got a little bit too close, we'd jump in the vehicle and move on down the road a little bit farther. And he just casually came walking down, and we left him and took off as he continued on his journey. So it was a lot of fun. Yellowstone's a great place in the wintertime. I'm often asked, what is my favorite image? And it's hard for me to answer that because I like a number of them, and I'm always trying for something better. But I do have favorites. They're typically some of my owls, because I find owls just more intriguing than a lot of other things. But I do like my great gray owl sitting on the fence post, and I do like my great horned owl with the red squirrel behind it. This is a photograph I entered in the Audubon magazine photo contest this past year, and it actually won the professional division birds. It's a photo of two greater sage grouse males. They're fighting for dominance. This goes on their leks every spring. The leks are in certain areas around the sagebrush steppe, and I have a number of them that I go to every year, and I usually get out once or twice a week. But what happens with these male greater sage grouse is they're always trying to get in a little bit closer. The center one does one that does most of the mating, but they're always battling, and so they'll sit side by side, and there's no clue as to when they're actually going to throw wings at each other, but they do, and sometimes your arms are breaking because they're holding, and you know they're going to do it, and as soon as you let down, they do it. So anyway, so this was a unique moment where I'm always trying to capture a fight scene. What I like about this, in the photo world, it's actually considered a butt shot on the one side because you got the back end of the grouse. But these grouse have such beautiful tails on the back side. I've always tried to figure out am I going to incorporate that into an image. So this image worked well for me because I got both the front and the back side, and you can see the power that the guy's hitting the other one with. It was just one of those moments where the camera, I set it down and went, whoa, I think I got that one. And it was fast, it was quick, and you just got to be ready for it. So lots of fun. I also like the snow background that it's on. Light was kind of minimal at that point, but you can see on the snowpack that there's actually a little bit of a glare, and it shows that it was actually a hard snowpack. So it was lots of fun. I have fun with these birds every spring. I get out there. The more marginal the weather, the better the time it is.
Funding for this program was provided by the members of the Wyoming PBS Foundation. Thank you for your support.